What happens when one of Hollywood's most respected actors walks into the lion's den of daytime television and refuses to back down from his principles? What happens when a seasoned talk show host pushes too far and meets someone who won't be intimidated? Today, we're diving into the explosive confrontation that shocked viewers and left the entire studio in stunned silence. This is the story of how Denzel Washington got kicked off The View after a heated argument with Joy Behar that nobody saw coming. Before we get into this incredible story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you think about celebrities standing up for their beliefs on live television. Now, let's get into what really happened that day. The energy inside the View studio crackled with anticipation. When Denzel Washington stepped on stage, the audience burst into enthusiastic applause, thrilled to witness the presence of a living legend. He carried himself with his trademark confidence, flashing a warm smile and waving graciously to the crowd. Yet behind that charming entrance, no one could predict that this appearance would soon erupt into one of the show's most unforgettable controversies. Welcome back to The View. I'm Joy Behar, and we're here with the phenomenal Denzel Washington. Joy declared, her voice laced with that familiar sweetness longtime viewers had learned to recognize as something far less innocent. Denzel, it's a real pleasure having you here. Thanks for having me, Joy, Denzel responded, his calm and charismatic presence grounding the room as he settled into his seat. It's always a pleasure. The rest of the panel, Whoopi Goldberg, Sunny Hostin, and Sarah Haynes, welcomed him with genuine smiles, clearly thrilled to have such a distinguished guest. But from the glint in Joy's eyes, it was clear she had a different agenda. So, Denzel, you've had a long and impressive run in Hollywood, and you've been quite outspoken about your faith and values. Wouldn't you say that some of those traditional values might be considered outdated today? Denzel's brows rose ever so slightly. This wasn't the usual opening line for a celebrity interview. Depends on what you mean by outdated, Joy. Could you clarify? Well, things like your views on marriage, family, and how society ought to be structured, she pressed, leaning forward with that signature predatory glint in her eyes. Isn't it time to let go of some of those old world views and embrace a more modern perspective? A hush swept over the crowd. Clearly, this wasn't the cheerful promotion segment they were expecting. But Denzel stayed poised, his calm honed through years of handling pressure in front of millions. I believe in principles that stand the test of time: respect, family, hard work, and accountability. Those aren't relics of the past, they're cornerstones of a functioning society. Joy didn't let up. Still, some critics say your views lean too conservative, she said, her tone edged with tension, especially when it comes to social justice and equality. I stand for equality, Denzel replied, his voice still calm, but his gaze sharpening. Every person deserves dignity and fairness, but I also believe strong values build strong communities. Joy's face tightened. She hadn't gotten under his skin. Yet. That's interesting, she said coolly, because some say your Hollywood success has made you lose touch with everyday struggles. Her words hung in the air like smoke after a shot fired. The room froze. Even the co-hosts seemed startled by the boldness of the remark. Denzel's jaw stiffened just slightly, but when he responded, his voice was unwavering. Joy, I'm from Mount Vernon. My father was a preacher. My mom worked long hours just to keep us afloat. I've never forgotten where I came from, Success didn't erase my roots, it revealed who I've always been. Joy pushed harder. Still, wouldn't you agree that wealth and fame can make it harder to relate to real people's challenges? She asked. Doesn't that make some of your views a bit out of touch? What's truly out of touch, Denzel said firmly, is assuming that success disqualifies someone from standing by their values. I earned everything I have, and I've always tried to give back, but I won't apologize for believing in the principles that got me here. Now the tension was thick. The rest of the hosts looked nervously between Joy and Denzel. Whoopi tried to signal for a reset with a lighthearted gesture, but Joy was locked in. "Let's talk about your faith," she said, her voice adopting an almost mocking tone. "You've spoken publicly about being a Christian. Don't you think some Christian teachings are damaging in today's world?" Denzel didn't flinch. The heart of Christianity is loving your neighbor. That's not harmful, it's healing. But when people distort that message to justify hatred, they're betraying its true meaning. Joy wasn't satisfied. "Still," she pressed, "what about the parts of your faith that seem exclusionary or judgmental to some people? Isn't it fair to ask whether those beliefs still belong in a modern, inclusive society?" Denzel leaned back, his piercing gaze fixed on Joy. "Are you really asking me to defend my faith on national television? Because this doesn't seem to be about my movie anymore." "I'm just asking whether your beliefs still serve today's world," Joy replied, her tone now unmistakably confrontational. "Maybe they're doing more harm than good." Another wave of silence swept across the room. The air had turned heavy. Denzel's next words cut through it like a blade. "Joy, I've done hundreds of interviews, and I've never been asked to justify my core beliefs like this. You're calling the very foundation of who I am harmful. That's not a conversation, it's an accusation." Joy tried to walk the line. "I'm not attacking your faith," she claimed, though the edge in her voice betrayed her. "Just questioning whether it's time for a more progressive lens. And I'm saying that truth doesn't expire. Just because something isn't trendy doesn't mean it's not still true." Joy's cheeks flushed. She was clearly beginning to lose control of the exchange. Isn't that rigid thinking what's holding society back? Shouldn't we be open to evolving? Real courage is holding on to what's right, even when it's not popular. Things were spiraling fast. The hosts were visibly unsettled. Whoopi tried cracking a joke to ease the friction, but Joy steamrollered ahead. "Denzel, with respect, that kind of thinking is part of what's dividing the country. Maybe it's time to consider that your beliefs are contributing to the problem." Then came the moment where the entire tone of the show changed. Denzel's eyes darkened with intensity. He spoke quietly, but his words hit like thunder. "Joy, you've sat here tearing apart my values, my faith, my background, and now you're trying to tell me that what I believe is the problem with this country?" A chilling silence followed. Every eye in the studio was fixed on the confrontation. Joy's face flickered between disbelief, anger, and something deeper, maybe regret. "Denzel, I think you're being a little sensitive here," she said, her tone laced with condescension. "I'm simply trying to have an honest conversation about how some traditional viewpoints might not serve us well in modern society." "Sensitive?" Denzel echoed, his voice rising. "Joy, you've spent the last 10 minutes systematically attacking everything I believe in. You've questioned my faith, my values, my connection to my community, and now you're telling me I'm being sensitive for not just sitting here and taking it?" The co-host sat frozen. Whoopi's expression darted to the producers off stage looking for a lifeline. Sarah Haynes appeared mortified. Sunny Hostin stared at Joy in disbelief. "I'm not attacking anything," Joy insisted, though the edge in her voice made it hard to believe. "I'm asking legitimate questions about whether some of your beliefs might be harmful to certain communities. That's called journalism, Denzel." "No, Joy, that's called an agenda," Denzel snapped, his composure finally showing cracks. Real journalism would involve asking about my work, my projects, my experiences. What you're doing is trying to tear down my faith and my values on national television." The word bullying hung in the air like a thunderclap. Whoopi's expression darkened immediately, and you could see the fury building behind her eyes. "Did you just call me a bully?" she said, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper.